better to talk about the state of the economy and more than the chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, Jeb Hensarling of Texas. Mr. Chairman, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Thanks for the invite.
Let's talk about where we were a year ago when we had concerns over a continuing resolution, concerns over the debt ceiling. Do we have anything to worry about as the American public on those two fronts this time, this year?
Well, I don't believe so. There will be a continuing resolution that will be on the floor, I believe, day after tomorrow. And right now, I expect that to pass. We will have to again deal with what we all know is an unsustainable spending trajectory, unsustainable levels of debt. Regrettably, I have a laptop that is awash of reports from the Congressional Budget Office and the Government Accountability Office saying this spending trajectory is unsustainable. We're going to have to deal with it. It is harming and hampering economic growth today, and we're going to have to deal with it.
So what's different this year that causes us not to be in that sort of logjam situation that we found ourselves in last year? Is it merely that there's an election 6 weeks from now and nobody wants to go into an election ticking off the American public?
Well, I think I'm vaguely aware there's an election coming up in the first week of...
I saw your eyes light up there.
Of November. So in reality, I'm sure that plays some role in it. I'm not sure that last episode worked out too well with for anybody. You know, again, it's not something that we're concerned about today, but regrettably, we still have an economy that's limping along at about 1.5% to 2% GDP growth. There's nothing that the Fed can do about it until we handle what we all acknowledge to be the highest single corporate tax rate of the industrialized world, until we deal with this onslaught of the regulatory burden as we morph from the rule of law to the discretion of regulators. I mean, the sheer weight, volume, complexity, load of red tape, a lot of it emanating from Obamacare and Dodd-Frank, is really hampering our economic growth today. That's what we're going to have to deal with.
Let's talk a little bit about an issue that I know is of great concern and passion of yours, and that's the refunding of the Export-Import Bank. There is apparently an agreement, the Speaker says, to extend some funding for a temporary period, a couple of months. Tell us the latest on that, and then what happens after that? When that funding ends after the election, what do you intend to do? What will happen?
Well, the Export-Import Bank is a federal agency that probably 1 in 10,000 have ever heard of, and that one is probably a beneficiary of the agency. What I expect to happen is that the agency will be reauthorized for a short-term period up until June. I expect that to be on the floor again on Thursday. I believe it will be supported by both houses. I believe the president will sign it into law. But there are a lot of very legitimate issues here. Again, we have an unsustainable spending trajectory as a nation, unsustainable levels of debt, and we continue to put more and more risk on the federal balance sheet. So the Export-Import Bank, our economy is not going to rise and fall on that. Almost 99% of all U.S. exports do not use this government agency. But arguably, for every job it helps sustain in exports, it hurts domestically. If Export-Import Bank used GAAP fair value accounting that practically every business and bank in America has to use, it's losing money for the taxpayer. And then, Tyler, frankly, it's about political lending. It's about who you know in Washington, not how hard you work in the marketplace.
And the big politically connected companies are the ones that you argue receive most of it, and that's the fact of the matter.
There is a reason they call it the Bank of Boeing, but GE and Caterpillar, all great American companies that by and large could finance these exports themselves, are instead taking this risk, putting it on the taxpayer balance sheet. And then there's ideological lending. I mean, the Export-Import Bank has a green quota, it has a no-coal policy, a sub-Sahara Africa policy. And it's time to let the market work. And so just because we've done something in the past doesn't mean that we should continue to do it going forward. So my hope is that we help our exporters by by fundamentally reforming our tax code, which is the major burden they have in competition, lowering our liability exposure, which is greater than that of our competitors, and then frankly, our bureaucratic rulemaking, particularly in the environmental remediation area. So there's ways that we can level the playing field that doesn't put something on the taxpayer balance sheet. That's what I want to work on, and I think it's time to exit XM.
And these are, and so on, bottom line on the Export-Import Bank is presumably a short-term extension of authorization, with the real debate coming in the next Congress, as so many of these other issues that you just identified on taxes, regulatory and so forth.
Correct.
You guys are going to be busy next year.
We will be.
Congressman, thank you very much. Nice to
Thank
be
you.
with you. Sue, back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Ty. Apple getting beaten